And we have 2 or 3 women in the audience tonight, and thank you very much for coming. There needs to be more females in this business. I do everything possible to try and throw gasoline on that flame. My wife is Lydia. How many people read the Hurl blog? Okay, you have her to thank for that. Let's give her a round of applause. She came to me, it was the weirdest thing you could ever imagine. We got into bed one night, she's sitting there, and she goes, I got this cool idea. I go, what? She goes, I'm going to brand you. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm a cinematographer, not a brand. No, I'm going to brand you. You are doing all this stuff, this innovative work, and people need to know about it. And we need to share this knowledge and show them. And it's not about you educating when you're kind of retiring. How about educating when you're at the top of your field and where you're really on the heartbeat of what all of you are using for your tools? And I'm using the same thing. And how we can share together and share that knowledge and kind of help each other down the whole road. So she's an incredibly powerful woman that was never in the film industry. She was a nurse that became a forensic pathologist who became a serial rapist and killer profiler. She's been all over the map. But right now she's really got into this education thing, and it's a wonderful partnership that we have together, and I absolutely love her to death. Okay, and what we're going to discuss right now is the why behind the how. There's a lot of programs and a lot of tutorials and a lot of events you can go to that really show you how to do it. Now I'm going to take you behind why I'm doing it. And the reason I'm using Crazy Beautiful as an example, which I shot in the year 2000, because it was a movie that completely changed the way that I shoot. I was going one direction, and I completely veered and went in another. So let's give you the synopsis. When fate steps in and brings together 2 high school seniors from the opposite side of the tracks. It's something crazy / beautiful. In this sexy, fun, energetic story of first love, Nicole Kirsten Dunst is a 17-year-old troubled daughter of a wealthy congressman who never met a rule she didn't break. Carlos J. Hernandez is a grade A student with big dreams who endures a 2-hour bus ride every morning to attend a high school in an upscale LA neighborhood of the Pacific Palisades. Their innocent flirtations quickly develop into passionate love, but Nicole's self-destructive behavior threatens their relationship and puts Carlos's promising future in jeopardy. Okay, yeah, dun, dun, dun. All right, so the director's notes. The reason I was going one direction and then veered and started going another direction, because this was the first time a director came to me and said, I want to discuss the feelings of the movie. He added emotions of the film. And this is when it all started for me, with attaching a camera style and a lighting style to all the characters' emotions. Okay? So this is a big change up. Most of the time I've been told, light the thing look beautiful, make it look, really unique, make it look scary, give me good action. But this was all driven by emotion. John wanted this film to feel real. He had gone to great lengths to find talent that was not part of the system. He found Jay Hernandez in an elevator, brought him in for a casting session, just loved how real he was, and cast him. He went to theater programs all over East LA and would cast them as well. They would come in and read, and then he wrote the script based on their dialogue. Okay? Very different kind of movie making here. right? Actually going to the people that are in East LA and asking them, if you were in this situation, what would you say? And then the screenwriter would write it. So these were really different ways of thinking. I had never really made a movie like this before. He wanted the camera to evoke the personality of each character. So Nicole lives in a glass house controlled by an evil stepmother. Her life is a lock-off, lockdown. The camera in her house never moved, ever. It was just locked off. Beautiful frames where she played within it, but the camera never moved. Jay's world was East LA. He had a very controlling mother. She had sacrificed working 3 jobs. All the other kids, her sons and daughters had never made it to college, and she was putting all her weight behind Jay. He was from the hood of East LA, so from a militant standpoint, the camera only moved in Control's ways. It only moved left to right, and it only moved up and down. Never diagonally, never right to left. Okay, so it was these kind of rules that we put in place to be able to show their different worlds. Now, when Kirsten and Jay met, I did something also very subtle that you can do with over the shoulders, as well as you can do with cleans. Okay? When they first met, I made the over the shoulders very wide, a huge gap in between the two of them. And as they slowly fell in love, the camera came around to the point where the gap would narrow. Each scene, it would be just a little closer and a little closer and a little closer till they're actually on top of each other. Okay? In the movie theater, you're not in there saying, look, he's narrowing the gap, right? It's something you're going to feel. Okay? And just like when they go, oh my God, it's the controlling mother. That's why the camera does not move. Okay, these are the emotions that you're setting, these rules. I do an emotional breakdown off of the director's notes and what they've told me of like what the mood and tone of this film is going to feel like and whose story it is and who should be driving it. And this one, it's Nicole's story. So out of that, I'm taking all this knowledge and I do what I call an emotional breakdown. I take each character and I start to form a camera emotion to that character as well as lighting emotions. What the tone should be in all these different environments. With this story in general, the director did not want LA to look all saturated with poppy colors. Okay, so many films had done the LA beach scene. He wanted Pacific Palisades to look true to life. If you've ever been to the Palisades, most of the time it's basked in some kind of fog bank or, overcast. It is not a bright and sunny type of place. The skies tend to be bald, the ocean tends to be very gray in tone, and it has a very cyan tonality. That's what we wanted this movie to feel like. Gray, cloudy at times, colder tones, slightly muted. East LA needed to feel muted as well. He did not want to do Carlos is this warm from the hood environment, and she's in this glass house and very blue and cyan. Both of them were the same tones. It's just we wanted to use the camera motion to be able to be the defining change instead of these big color shifts. John wanted to keep it to the same palette. He wanted a very small crew, one that could react at a moment's notice, that he got inspired to shoot something else that wasn't on the call sheet. So this is a big departure for me. I had worked on Rat Pack, where I had a very decent-sized crew. Skulls, I had a very large crew. And now I'm working with a director that doesn't want a lot of crew members around. He wants to keep it very intimate and almost documentary style. And I said, okay, well, we're dealing with this style of movie, and I understand that you want it to feel kind of raw, but how about if I give you a beautiful reality? And he's like, okay, I'm cool with that. So I limited the crew a little bit. I didn't go as big. We were able to be very nimble and move very quickly. And I took so much from John Stockwell and what he gave me, because it's keep it simple, stupid. Okay? It doesn't have to be all this stuff, and you can make it very small and nimble. And I learned it again when we did Into the Blue together. I had talked to many cinematographers of how you work on the water and how you control it and how you turn the boat and manipulate the boat so all the light is all the same and everything works together. Well, I kicked that to the curb on the 4th hour, because that required a big boat, an armada, and 15 to 20 other boats. We just took all of those and we threw them away. We said, go back. And we did the whole movie from a 14-foot by 45-foot boat. The whole film. I had a 13-camera package on there with techno cranes and foxy cranes and stuff that could submerge into the water, and 4 underwater housings and all this. And when Mother Nature kind of kicked our ass and we couldn't do anything, we could just duck right into a harbor, and we'd bring our boat that was our picture boat. That became the hair, makeup, wardrobe station for all the actors. We had a bathroom on our camera boat, and that's all we needed. Those 2 boats and like little pilot boats that ran stuff back to the mainland. And this is how we were able to keep that budget on point. Most budgets on the water just go spiraling out of control because you're dealing with Mother Nature. Well, we stayed right on budget and right on schedule, and it's all about keeping it small. All right, creation. So out of all these notes that the director's given me, these conversations that happen in minivans, in the location vans, in our first group of meetings, I take that in as inspiration. And now I have to try to bring that into visual scrap, let's say. Well, when I do that, I look for inspiration. I always turn to still photography. And one photographer that grabbed my eyes was Hero Mix. She was a Japanese still photographer that never looks through the lens. Okay? Well, why would that catch my eye? Well, I find teenagers are all over the place. One day they like something, the next day they think it's crap. They change fashion trends on a daily basis. One day they're hanging with their friends, the next day they're their enemies. So I wanted this depiction, this inconsistency, to kind of resonate with the style of photography, to emulate how teenagers are, right? I also love the cooler tones that she has in many of her photos. So look at this, for example. The beautiful cyan blue through the windows and the coolness in the shadows and the skin tone. Shooting feet. Why? I don't know, but it's interesting. The low angle looking up, seeing like the shade from the lamp, and then cutting off of her eye in that shot. The just drowning of red that we use in the photo lab scene in the movie, the lens flare and the imperfection of just this light mixed with the coolness here. And just taking what a convenience store would look like, really, which is minty cool white fluorescence. I'm not color correcting anything. The street lights are sodium vapor. The convenience store is cool white fluorescence. When they go into different areas, it's metal halide. It's taking all those urban tones and embracing that color. And it's not about everything being color corrected. You don't walk into a place like this and say, all right, give me daylight on everything, daylight balanced, or I want it all tungsten. Or with your street lights, you're like, okay, let's turn off the street lights and hang mighty moles. No, I'm not doing any of that. Color correction destroys the look of reality for me. It's just like when you see moonlight in downtown LA. Where's that coming from? Is the moonlight overpowering all the street lights that you can see? You know, it's like it's keep with reality a little bit. Another photographer, Nan Golden. She was an incredible photographer that kind of documented much of her physical abuse that was afflicted upon her by many of her partners. This is a self-portrait of that exact thing. But her compositions and the quality of the light, just cast the warmth out, just the quality of where the light is coming from and the contrast is what I was really responding to. And then the tones, the single source through a bedroom, just the window light, the reflection and the cyan qualities, the difference between the coolness and the warmth there. Okay, so now I take these inspirations and I share it with John and production design, and I come up with something I call the look. And the look is a document that goes right along with the script. Every scene has a scene number. Then it tells you what exactly the location is. Then it has a little brief description of, Carlos walks into the media room and meets Nicole. Okay? Then it has a description of what the light feels like. The tone of the room. If it's backlit, if it's sun shafts, if it's golden hour, if it's twilight, if it's dawn, if it's just lit from a practical. All these are described in each scene. You hand this look to your production designer, to your wardrobe department, hair and makeup, and they automatically start to understand what the film is going to look like and what they can do to assist in this. Okay, you're uniting the team. Gabriel Muccino, the director of Fathers and Daughters, embeds the shot list into the script. How efficient is that? It's genius. Because every person is reading the script and they see exactly how he's going to cover it. And then mixed with the look, you not only see how it's going to be covered, but then you're also going to understand what the tone is, what the color is in there, all the things. So now you're making one movie and you're making Gabriel's movie. You're not making, as a cinematographer, I'm not making my movie, and wardrobe's not making their movie, and production design's not making their movie. We're all united. And this is just the power of this type of process. When it's all gelling and firing at 12 cylinders, you feel it. You walk on the set and you immediately feel, because it just flows so nicely. It's like it's been designed, which is the whole purpose. Okay, this was Carlos's world, which you have a very kind of like, look at the refrigerator. There's cool white fluorescent in there, mixed with all these different tones. CFL in his bedroom, very raw. Look at the walls. They're not very polished and perfect. His house is dirty and everything. There's the skyline of East LA. He's just one house on top of another on top of another. Okay? Then you have, Nicole's world, which is the glass house, the bald sky, the gray water. Her photo lab scenario, the single source that was from Nan Golden there. And you kind of look at, I'm taking female photographers. Okay? This is Nicole's story. I want it from a female's perspective. So I'm looking for that influence because it's different. Other scenes, when they started to fall in love, I started bringing a little warmth into the scenarios. There they are back in the shower, but you can always see like that coolness. Those tones are still leading through where we're not going all warm. The starkness of the street lights and the shadows and everything that we're creating their worlds. These off-frame compositions that I talked about, it's like putting them way on the left side of frame, the inconsistency of a teenager. Same with her, putting her way over on the right, him way over on the left, not centering them, making them inconsistent. Okay, now let's take a look into the story. I want to kind of set this all up for you. So, Carlos and Nicole went to that quinceañera that I told you about, and she felt very weirded out, and she ends up leaving the party and gets lost in East LA and calls Carlos. He comes to find her, and they have a dialogue conversation. And she tells him that she thinks she's falling in love with him, that she has fallen in love with him. He doesn't return the sediment. So she's like, I've weirded you out. Sorry, And so the next day he goes to see her dad, who's the congressman. And he needs to be sponsored to get into Annapolis. So he offered to sponsor him when they met early on in their relationship. And he comes to his office, and he basically says, "Stay away from my daughter. She is trouble. We cannot control her. She's out of control, and she's only going to destroy your life. Walk away." So the next scene you have is where she comes up to Carlos and meets him in the lunchroom and says, "Hey, did you talk to my dad?" And he's like, "Yeah." "And where you been?" And he's like, I'm just, concentrating, school and everything. She's like, "What did he say?" And he said, "Stay away from you. You're trouble. You're only gonna, destroy me." And she goes, "What did you say?" And he says, "Nothing." And she's like, "I see." And she walks out. At that point, she goes on a spiral, okay? She starts sleeping with every guy, drinking herself into oblivion to the point where Carlos realizes, my God, I did the wrong thing. And he calls her up and he finds her that she's at this party, and he goes and rescues her. On the way home, the cops pull him over. And he wasn't drinking, but she has open containers in the car. So they bring them up to the congressman's house. He comes out. There's the cops. There's Carlos, and there's Nicole, and the evil stepmother comes out, and she goes ballistic, and the wheels come off. It's an incredible fight sequence where basically they're sending her away. Next scene, Carlos is sitting in a classroom, and he sees Nicole walk by the classroom being escorted by a very large man. And he sees this while he's taking his midterm. So that's kind of the look into the story and the setup before we go over to this set. Now, when I am thinking about this scene, with everything that I've told you, each scene in the film I look at and try to find a key frame. What's a key frame? A key frame is all the emotional firepower with just one shot. So if you only could do one shot in this scene, what would that key frame be? So here's the question. What does this key frame tell you? Okay, what does this key frame tell you? The table is the C her head is barely above water. Okay? When I saw this, I saw fragile, broken, dejected, shamed. Okay? Her parents have thrown her out. She's shamed now. Everything that she's done, she's lost Carlos. She's broken. She's absolutely fragile. She's barely keeping her head above water. When I set that scene up and I had Nicole down on her knees packing her stuff up, John Stockwell said, "What are you doing? What's this all going on?" And I go, "John, look at this shot right here. It's like her head bobbing just above the sea, just keeping her head above water." And he goes, "That's exactly why I hired you," right? It's like, these are the kind of things I started, he challenged me to think in an emotional sense, to be able to take these characters and attach emotions and then start to figure out. In every movie, I set these keyframes. And this was the key frame for this. Now, how do we show their different worlds when they're only 3 feet apart? So think of that. We'll play the video, and then we'll answer the question.
What's going on?
Packing.
Where are you going?
Oh. I'm going to the Turnabout Ranch in lovely Escalante, Utah. And I get to be escorted by a lovely gentleman who's waiting for me in the principal's office. So it looks like I get to go to boot camp before you do. Sorry for being so dramatic the other night. It was stupid.
I'm sorry for not...
Oh, don't say anything. You couldn't do anything. You were smart not to say anything. So, Mr. Nunez, it was great knowing you. I hope you have a wonderful life.
Let's leave.
What?
Let's get out of here right now.
Are you in the middle of an exam? Like right now?
So?
I'm not gonna let you just walk out of your midterm.
I already did.
Annapolis is gonna look at these grades.
You're not listening to me. I want to be with you. I don't give a shit about anything else right now, okay? Midterms, grades, Annapolis, your father. I want to be with you.
Do you want to be with me?
I love you.
Don't just say that because...
Shut up. I love you, okay?
You know this guy in the office? He's pretty damn big.
Then let's go out on Sunset.
All right. Answer the question. How do we show their different worlds when they're only 3 feet apart? Right. We were kind of just above her eye line, and then we were lower on his eye line to make him look more heroic. Yes? Exactly. Her wall's crazy, out of control, disorganized. His world, grade A student. Yes. Softer light on him. Yeah. He's more in control, more organized. The grade A student, right? She's completely out of control. Okay, so let's kind of show the scene again, and I'll kind of start and stop. Okay. He walks in. I wanted immediately for you as an audience to feel that he's walking into Nicole's world. Look at that. The light's coming in. It's overexposed. There's shadows. It's crazy. It's all over the map. This is Nicole's world. He's entering it. the keyframe. The subtle push in the wide shot. And we're just moving in that he takes us into this. Her being much more lit than he is. Feeling that she's underneath the microscope, right? She's got this light on her. All right, these are all the things that I'm thinking of. We're shooting in, obviously, Pacific Pali High, and there's no sunlight that's coming into the room. I'm creating all that. So I put an 18K specifically on her and have him kind of walk into the peripheral of that light, but it to be focused on her. The craziness of her background. I mean, look at that. It's so messy, so disorganized, so out of control, which is Nicole. His direction, a little more color, yes, but the light is very soft and flattering and rappy, and it's not mixed with all these shadows and overexposed. And his background is very mundane, very in control. There's no shadows or anything back there. This is, I used light grid cloth and half soft frost. Exactly what I've been using there. She's not anything. She's just hard sunlight. Well, our hard 18K. Okay, so here's where it really comes down to the whole, here's the icing on the cake. If this was Love Actually that we were filming, and Hugh Grant was coming in and swooping the girl in this scenario, it would all be late afternoon glow and shafts of sun into the room. And there would be this beautiful kick of bounce that illuminated the actress and made her look just so stunning and beautiful. And Hugh would say, "I love you." Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is we're shooting Crazy Beautiful, not Love Actually. And I felt that in this moment, if I had made Kirsten Dunst look beautiful, then where is the power when he says, "I love you"? If she looks like an oily-haired, drowned rat, damaged young woman, and he still, through all of this, says, "I love you," it has so much more emotional impact. These are the decisions. It's not about making sure this light is perfect on our model over here. It's about taking what you know and where you can place the light and then enabling it to place it in the wrong place. To put it in a place where she does feel damaged and she does not feel so attractive, because at this moment, he stutter steps a little bit. He almost doesn't say it, and then he says it. It's so good. The small, short, little scene in this movie was the straw that broke the camel's back in this film. Okay, it was where they now fell in love with together, and she started to change, and he had so much more. They both came alive. So setting up these small little nuances of making her background more confusing and his more in control, and making her not look so beautiful. All these things I'm thinking through way before I even enter this media room. Walking into a location, what to look for. Let's fire up Crazy Beautiful, guys. You're looking for windows. You're looking for doorways. You're looking for practical light. You're looking for everything possible to be able to illuminate this and place your first stroke. And how that stroke can help with blocking a scene. I had 2.5 hours to completely shoot this film. this scene here. So with that, I have to be able to plan out. I have all these ideas in my head that I've written down on my script, okay? I want her background to be messy and out of control. I want his background to be all smooth and coiffed. I want her to feel underneath the spotlight. So all these things I'm thinking of, okay, and then how can I do this in 2.5 hours? So I have to block the scene so their backlight becomes their key light. Right? Because if I have to completely relight the scene when I get in for coverage, it's going to take me too much time. So I block the scene with that idea. Now, when you do locations like this that have big banks of windows, you have to plan for success. So this is where the media room is. This is the sun. Okay? So I knew that I could go and shoot something in the morning, and then we'd get in there around 11 or 12 o'clock, and we wouldn't have any sun that was playing into that room that I did not have to control. So you want to try and shoot at these right times, because if I had shot early, I would have had to fly up some big, solid to be able to take the sun out. And we didn't have the time, the budget, or the manpower to do something like that, right? I've shrunk my crew. So we have to alter the schedule and use sun tracking devices to know when the sun's not going to be in there. And then I can just use my lights and mimic sunlight and keep it consistent for that 2.5 to 3 hour period. Now, there's a couple apps that do this very well, that plot the path of the sun. Sunseeker is $6.99. It tells you where everything's going to be. It gives you your building, where the sun's coming in, on any place in the world. There's also Helios, which is a $29.99 program that may be a little more accurate in some scenarios, but they're both close. All right. Now we jump to the lighting schematic. With the lighting schematic, I'm not a big guy of having all these wacky programs that you can, use all these little icons to be able to show your 18K or your Kino Flow or all that stuff. I just put something in like this with iDraw, and I draw my lights and I take little icons and I create them in my little library, so I always have these little figures that I can pop in there to make it a little close and a little quicker. So on the day, I used 18Ks and condors. And when you're scouting a location, when you go to a location for the first time with the director to make sure this is the right scene, you look at it and you're saying, okay, yeah, we got windows. That's going to be really interesting. I'll be able to bring some sunlight through there. So setting your team up for success is very important, because your gaffer and your key grip are not going to come on before about 2 weeks before the thing starts production, maybe 4 weeks at the most. So as a cinematographer, you have to think like a key grip, and you have to think like a gaffer and a camera assistant. You have to be all three. How are we going to move into this location? What's the easy access? I'm always looking at, do we have to deal with stairs? Do we have to deal with elevators? I'm always looking how we're going to get gear in there. The other thing I do is I look at these windows and I walk right out the door and see what I'm up against. I look back there. That could be a cliff. Okay? It could just drop off the face of the earth, or it could be very uneven pavement or something out there that's going to restrict the vision, which is 18Ks and condors blowing through these windows. Or in our case, airy M8s blowing through these windows. And we're doing it in a way that is 3 lights. And that's what I did on Crazy Beautiful, 3 18Ks. So we're using 3 M8s. So we'll start with, I have one M8 right here. So this is airy M8. Okay? And that's coming in, and it's going right like this. right onto Nicole. Like almost like I'd say, 10 o'clock or like 2:30, 2 o'clock kind of angle that we were discussing over on the light study. Almost where Chris took the light when I said, make her feel damaged. He drifted way over kind of behind her. Then there's another light over here that's also hitting her and then just bringing it in to edge like Carlos, but not as powerful. And then the third one is over here, and that's keying the wall and making the hard shadows on the wall over there. Then we have some jokers. So I have a 800 watt joker. That is pounding into the white. I have another 800 watt joker over here, and then I have one in the center. So they're kind of hitting the white source because we're creating that blown out sky that Mother Nature did naturally for us, right? All that was there. We're creating this in this environment, so we have to do that. I have a fill over here, so I have a Kino Flow 400 Celeb. Into a 4x8 bounce. And then I'm going to sneak in a little round bounce over here that just kind of picks up all this light that's flying around in there and brings up the level on Kirsten Dunst when she's down on her knees. Now, there's tons of light control. This is the one thing that that I do all the time. I cheat the sun. They always call me Geldar, like the land of like 8 suns. But there's one shadow. So what I'm doing is I'm flagging these lights to be able to make one shadow. So there are siders on all of these lights. There's a lamp right sider, and they're named, I label these heads from left to right. So this is number 1, this is number 2, and this is number 3. So I'm putting a lamp right sider so this light doesn't fall onto this light doesn't fall onto this wall. I'm putting a lamp left sider. You always address the light like you're the operator. So you're behind it, not in front of it. So you're behind number 1. This would be a lamp right sider. This would be a lamp left sider. Okay? So I'm controlling that off. This sider here is also keeping the number 2 head off of this wall. It's blocking that. Then I have on the number 2, I have a lamp left sider as well that's keeping this light off of this wall over here, as well as this wall. So I'm shaped, and then I have another one like this. So all these lights have these flags up there, and it looks like a forest back there to be able to create one source. So that way I can get the nice hard shadows on the back wall over here from this area M that comes in and creates all these neat shadows. I have my bounce over here again with my Kino Flow. And then I have my circle bounce just outside of frame over here that I'll add. And then I have my jokers that we talked about. One here, and one here. All right. So we're going to move over to the set, and let's talk about our coverage that we're going to go into. So we're going to do 3 shots. We're going to do number 1 and 2, which is the dolly track that's set up to, which we're going to push in, and we're going to just divide the scene kind of in pieces where the minute they shake hands and he says, let's leave, we'll cut, and we'll finesse that shot. Then we'll move into our coverage on Nicole, which is over Jay's shoulder, and then we'll finish with Jay. We're going to do C500 for the wide shot. We'll do Black Magic for our close-up of Nicole, and we'll do a DSLR for Carlos. The three jokers in the back are pounding into the white unbleached muslin and Ultra Bounds. I didn't have those on the day because I had the ambience of daylight to blow out my sky. Here, we're creating it because we're in a ballroom in Washington, D.C. All right, so let's start to look at our exposure and kind of talk about this camera system. So right now we have a C500, right? And with our display, I kind of want to show you how I set this camera up. So I shoot in CP locked, okay? I don't do a cinema profile. This is the CP lock that I like to use because it's its most uncompressed and raw form on this camera. We're shooting at 3,600 degrees. I think this is a little too cold, so I'm going to warm it up a little bit to fit more in the crazy beautiful sense of maybe 4,200, okay? Kelvin is everything with the Cinema EOS cameras, because what it does is the Canon never delivers a RAW file. They say it's Canon RAW, but it absolutely is not. The Red Dragon delivers a RAW file. The Arri Alexa delivers a RAW file. The Sony delivers a RAW file. This does not. If you change the color temperature, it changes the output. If you change the color temperature on an Arri Alexa, it's just metadata. The flat file stays the same, completely uninfluenced by any of your color temperature swings. With this camera, you need to be anal on color and color temp. If you want the scene to look blue, then you need to make it blue. If you want it to be warm, you need to make it warm. And you need to bake that in. And by baking it in, it makes your color correction in the color bay at the end unbelievably fast. So, all the feature films that I've done prior to Fathers and Daughters, I've shot on different format cameras. Need for Speed took 6 weeks to color correct. Deadfall took 2.5. Swing Vote took 2 weeks. I color corrected Fathers and Daughters in 4 days. The quickest I've done any film. And it's because of you baking this in as an artist and choosing the color temps and where you're going with. And then in the color correcting bay, all I'm doing is literally bringing the blacks down, increasing the contrast, moving to the next shot. Doing that throughout the whole thing. The color swings and was everything exactly in the right pocket where I wanted it. And if you could say, what does the C500 give you and emulate? It emulates Kodak film to the T. So there's definitely some really cool things that are happening with the Cinema EOS line. The skin tones are red-yellow. Well, that's what Kodak is. It's a red-yellow format. Fuji was more of a blue-green format. That's what I feel the Alexa has. It feels a little more like Fuji. So does Sony. So all these different cameras have this specific, I say, digital emulsion. And what I find is this one has kind of a Kodak emulsion. Now, if you look on the corner there, it says RGB 444 10-bit. You notice that we're not shooting this camera in 4K. I shot Need for Speed in 4K because it was what Post wanted us to use. They wanted to be able to zoom in and reframe if they needed to. They wanted to be able to stabilize the image. They wanted to be able to shake the image to create intensity. And we knew we were going to be painting out 30 to 40 cameras on almost every shot. So they wanted a bigger negative, let's say, so more lines of resolution. When I did Fathers and Daughters, I did a side-by-side comparison of 4K versus 2K, and I decided to go with 2K. The reason being is, imagine an overexposed window like that, okay? When you're shooting at 4K, there's 2,000 more lines saying, I don't have any resolution, right? I don't have any information. There's no information there. It's clipped, it's gone. So at 2K, it felt softer, and it felt not so much resolution, and it blew out in much more an organic way, like let's say the area Alexa would blow out, because it has more stops of latitude in the over. So taking this camera and trying to set it up for the best success is truly trying to shoot this at 2K. We have the Ultra Cage from Red Rock, and this is all designed to be able to power your whole system, your monitors, your Teradek, your Red Rock kind of cine tape, which works very good. It's saying it's 21'8" to the back wall, and then I whip my hand up there and I'm 3'3" away from it. So this is something that's a very powerful tool for focus pullers. Okay, so we have the Atomos Samurai Blade that we're using for our external recorder. Anton Bauer is powering up all this. The Red Rock Follow Focus, this is what I used on fathers and daughters. I really love this device. It's got very good range, so it enabled us to, at many times me putting the iris motor as well as the follow focus motor to be able to do all those stop changes. So now let's get into our exposure. So I'm looking at the monitor over there, and it looks a little hot. Throw false color up there for me. It's labeled FC. Okay, all right. Now, I never use waveform monitors, okay, ever. False color is everything. The reason being is because you can see exactly what is actually overexposing. On a waveform monitor, you can see that it's somewhere in there, and you know something's clipped, but you're not necessarily seeing where it is, especially when people are moving all around. With false color, you can see exactly what is overexposed. So we are definitely losing the outside, which is what we want. We want that to overexpose. And we see that the table is fairly hot. Well, there's a lot of white paper and plastic and everything on there. So that's kind of something that you would like to overexpose at. We're 30 mil. Let's dolly all the way back. If you could just slide that cable. I want to be able to get all the way back as wide as possible on this. And then just exposing, I would kind of probably bring it down to, so all that doesn't blow too much, kind of be in this pocket. Now, let me look at my side wall over there. That wall is a little hot, but still in the red zone, so it's not clipped. Okay, now let's look at our exposure. So now I'm at okay. So now the other thing is we're at 1600 ISO. Obviously we have enough light. So let's go back to 850. Now 850 is the native ISO of this camera. Now when we do that, I would say, go ahead and throw me all over to false color again. I would say we're kind of in that mode, which is like 4 1/3, okay? Come out of false color now. All right, that's looking about the right move. So we're 4 1/3. So I don't want to shoot at 4 1/3. Most of the time I like to shoot wide open, like at a 2, not a 1/4, but around a 2. But for this, we're at 4 1/3, we have a 2.8. Now I can't put the internal ND, which is a very powerful tool that this camera has, because you don't have to worry about any kind of reflections or double kicks or anything by using glass out in front of the lens. But it only goes in 2-stop increments, and we're in that weird middle ground. If this lens was at a 2, then I would have 2 stops to go down and I could do it. But we're kind of 4 1/3, 4 1/2. So let's get a ND3. Okay, so this is our ND3. Now when I'm putting it in, I'm putting it into the tray closest to the lens, so it limits as much reflection as possible. All right, so now we've ND'd that down. Okay, and now I'm going to go to a 2 3/10 because that's what I put in 1 stop of ND, and I'm doing that so it kind of creates a little shallower depth of field.